Hello and welcome back to the OnlyAccies podcast. We've got a lot to get through today, 5 games to break down, as well as some off the field news as well. I'm joined today by David and Brandon as always. Guys, how are we feeling today? Smashing! All right, let's get into the games. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
I'm all right. As you can see, we've got the new podcast light, and I'm good.
Smashing, David?
I'm good. I've got the virtual paper bag over my head. Heard, not seen.
As I said, plenty to get through. A good little run of form. Some unlucky news in games as well. But we'll start off with Ross County losing 2-1. It looked so promising at one point, and then losing 2 late goals. I said at the time it was completely heartbreaking. I can't remember what the title of the video, but I remember being in the video, everyone was raging. Brandon, what were your thoughts after that game, after it starting so well, and it looked as if we were going to get a good result, to have that suddenly ripped away from you?
I thought we were dead and buried, to be perfectly honest. I think I'd done an interview with the Daily Record, and I said the exact same. I thought that was us gone. We looked so promising as well. Bruce Anderson came in, offered us a different dynamic, and then, as per usual, fucking poor game management seemed to lose us a game. When we made the changes, that's when County have scored their 2 goals. We were playing good football. It was something we weren't used to. We didn't expect to sort of see it. And then, poor game management, stupid subs lost us a game. Inevitably, and now County's above us in the league, where if we had better game management, we'd still be above County. And the run we sort of went on would be even better. County came into that game with, I think they lost 8 out of the last 9 away games, and it was just disaster to lose that game. And I think everybody thought that as soon as that happened, we were fucked pretty much.
Yeah, David, what were you thinking after that game? Were you thinking that's it? Do you know what I mean? We've lost to Ross County. That's our season over, no matter what happens. What were you thinking?
Totally. With the first half performance was actually probably at that point the best that we'd played all season.
Yeah.
But it was just, before we did a preview of the game, we said the difference will be between trying to win the game and trying not to lose it. And we tried to cushion a wee lead for, what was it, like 70 minutes. It just approached the game all wrong. Like, granted, we're having this conversation in hindsight, and things have went up a lot since then, which we'll obviously go into. But at that point, I thought there's no chance. I mean, we always say you have to beat the teams around you if you're going to survive. And we put the performance in. We were by far the better team on the night, but that was 2 goals in 4 minutes. And that just summed us up. Like I said, last season it seemed to be red cards. And this year it seems to be like consecutive goals in a short period of time, or early goals, where we just seem to be like a bunch of boys. Heads go down. And the amount of times where I've texted you this season when we've conceded a goal, and then I say to you the second goal coming within minutes, and most of the time that's actually happened. So, it was pretty low.
That's pure management, and that's just a negative mentality. That's all that is. We talked about it all season. No professional football team should be conceding 3-4 goals within a 10-minute period, and we've done it several times this season. To then concede 1 against Ross County when we were 1-0 up, our bottles just crashed. Mm-hmm. It's pure management. It's pure mentality at the time. But as we say, since then, things have definitely get better. I don't think you'd find. It'd be very hard to find any very, very positive Accies fan that would have thought what would come after the County game, because I think pretty much everybody just thought that was us. Goodbye, Scottish Championship, here we come.
And there obviously was another moment, a news story that came from the Ross County game. We won't touch on this for long. I've preached online, let's not talk about it, but I feel like if we're doing a podcast over the last few weeks, we do need to at least mention it. Jobby Gate, our beloved commentator Bobby Bullock, trying a bad shot at humour, being completely unprofessional, and then quite rightly got kicked. after the game. I mean, guys, we'll talk about it briefly, but what can you actually say about it's ridiculous. It's so stupid. It should not have happened, and I'm so glad that he's gone. But he should have been gone weeks ago.
It was an absolute redneck. All these fans fell out with Accies are pointing in saying, "Oh, it's just a wee bit of funny humour," but at the end of the day, it's not. For months, we've been getting the absolute piss taken out of us for this guy, paying money to listen to a guy that knows absolutely fuck all about football, makes no effort to learn anything, doesn't even know what players are on the park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this guy fucking infuriated me on a weekly basis. I'm not fucking scared to say he was an absolute joke.
Yep.
A guy that calls himself a professional. The only thing that really upset me about fucking Joby Yates is the fact that Accies went public with it. I think they thought they were doing the right thing for the fans, knowing how long the fans wanted this guy out. They thought making this a public statement that was going to win some fans over.
I don't. I think them doing that as a public statement's been. I don't know if I'm just a paranoid bastard, but I think this is all premeditated and they're smarter than what we think. Bobby Box is a director with the same company as Colin McGowan. It's the same acting company, the same sort of fucking production company. They're both directors. So he's still working with Accies in a certain way. They've got publicity. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad publicity. But I don't know. There's something no right. Something smells funny about it all. But and I'll not talk about his arse, the fucking idiot. But
but it's the fact that you go on his Twitter and he's like, if you're offended by a bit of Joby, then don't go and see my feature film and link in his movie. I'm
exactly.
Like,
so there's something weird about
it. That's what annoys me most. Like, obviously, completely unprofessional. It brings a bad name to the club and all that. But see the fact that he's fucking loving it. That's what's getting me more.
He's loving it, going on podcasts. He's getting big attention of like Radio 5 Live. He deserves no attention. His film or whatever news deserves 0 viewers. He has the personality of a fucking ruler. 0. He's an absolute ball-bag, and that's the end of discussion. We stop talking about him now.
Thank you. Yeah. There was another big story after that Ross County game, and that was our chief executive coming out, doing a Q&A with Lanarkshire Live. He was answering questions put forward by the fans. The questions that fans wanted to hear answered. And we didn't get many answers, did we? I think, in my opinion, the article was done with good intention, but maybe not just pulled off in the right manner. I understand some questions would be difficult to ask face-to-face. Quite a lot of feedback online. Brandon, what were you thinking when that came out, and what were you thinking after you read it?
Well, obviously, we've just been beat off County, so the mood was horrendous throughout the full of Accies fans. Then to put the fucking icing on the cake, that comes out. And I don't really want to talk about it that much because it seemed just another Q&A where, as you say, answers were stuff we already knew anyway. Yeah. Nothing really and I feel for you because it wouldn't have been an easy it wouldn't have been an easy interview, especially face to face. He's a journalist. He needs to build a relationship with the club, continue it, but he still shouldn't need to put the pressure on to ask certain questions, which I'm sure they've came out and says they'll have a fans sort of Q&A with McGowan, so that if that develops, that could be good. But the thing about that whole thing that really pissed me off was when he's saying that you had fans thinking about the banner, Sandy Walker. Like, come on to fuck, man. That was outrageous. I don't care what other people's opinions may be on McGowan or what my opinion is or what other people's. I could be answering other questions which were fair enough, but see to answer like that's out of order. Yeah. Like to try and tarnish anyone, that is evil. That is evil. See to try and tarnish a group of fans and trying to say people are slagging a banner about a 90-year-old fan that's got a life-threatening disease and illness. That is horrible. Yeah. It just is. That is disgusting, and it riles me up because it's a sort of Sandy Walker is he's got an illness that is close to my family sort of heart. So to see that and to see him try to tarnish fans, saying that they slagged that banner, that was disgusting. That is way below the belt. It can accuse fans of being toxic. It can accuse fans of being too moany, never being happy. But see, to actually go into a specific event like that and accuse shit like that was bang order for me.
I have respect for the family. I ain't going to talk about it too much, because if that was me and that was a member of my family in the gesture, I wouldn't want it to be tarnished with this kind of chat. But the thing is I'm sure someone commented to say underneath that I commented back. I can look it up, but somebody was saying, like, what proof is there? How do we know that someone didn't complain about the banner? But what I'm saying is, if you look at the post itself, there's actually no evidence at all there to say that Aki's even provided that banner. Because what he's saying is fans were moaning about us spending money on the banner. See, if you look at the post, there's nothing even to suggest that they spent that money on the banner. I mean, I could pass that over to them. So I'm going to do me a wee favour. I'm going to put this up for my family and do that. It's like there's no proof at all. So there's nothing to base that on. But he's came out with that. That's a direct attack at Aki's fans. And like I say, that's all we'll say about it, because it's an absolute shame for the family that we're having to talk about this.
And then, see, just reading some of it, it was playing this. Some of the answers was just, I didn't understand at all. He's like, some of the fans just want us to play football and not help the community that are suffering. Please tell me who wants that.
Yeah.
I'd honestly, it's just some of the answers and some of the the questions that it was just a shambles, really. There's no point in going in depth about it, because I think pretty much 90% of people have the same opinion on it. There's no point in airing it anymore. Some of the answers were incorrect. It's not how to tarnish Aki's fans. Aki's fans, for a second, don't want us to like help the community. We don't want us just to play football. We just want to be shown a wee bit of respect, and it works both ways. You give us respect, we'll give you respect. There's no respect there, and that's how we need to try and resolve it in some way, shape or form. And hopefully the Aki's Trust that's going to come about does that, and hopefully the Q&A that Ewan's going to arrange with some fans in McGowan can give a better insight than some of the ridiculous answers we're getting spouted to.
You've just lost to Ross County. You're sitting bottom of the table and you look ahead, you think, who are we playing next? And of course, it's one of the old firm, it's Rangers. I don't think MD would have expected the performance and the result. A result that should have been a win. I will die on this hill. I will say it every time we talk about it. Should have been a win. I mean, going into that game, we're sitting with 7 defenders and everyone's moaning about it on Twitter. I'm one of them. But there did seem to be something different about that, because it changed from almost like a 5-3-2 to a 3-5-2, and he had the 2 wing backs pushed really high, and that caused him a lot of problems. Going into that game, Brandon, I'm obviously assuming you didn't expect that level of performance or that result.
Well, we saw how the full seasons went, and then to be so deflated, to have that sort of feeling that you'd have getting beat off your closest rivals. The worst thing you'd want after that is to go and play Rangers, especially how much they're just absolutely annihilating, ending their path. Then for us to pull at that performance out the bag, when you've got Steven Gerrard singing your praises to the high hills, you know that usually with Rangers, they seem... Oh, sorry. Usually with Rangers, they seem quite a deluded bunch, but they were singing our praises. Even they says we deserved to win the game. A point was the minimum we deserved, which it just shows you the difference in sort of mentality. Rice said before it, I'm just going to tell my players from now on to just go and have a go. I thought that was just him spouting his usual pish, but no, he's lifted the players for that feeling we had against County. So he deserves so much praise for that. He's been criticised justifiably so he deserves praise for when he does well. To lift the boys for that was class. I think the sort of, as you've touched on, the 3-5-2, we played. I think it was more so, although I'm not a big fan of Charlie Trafford, see having a midfielder in that role rather than another defender and Ben Stirling. I think that made such a difference. But it was just a completely different dynamic. I don't think Rangers expected it. Us Accies fans didn't expect it. I don't think MD in Scottish football expected that performance for Accies. And then it was really important we didn't just let that be a one-off performance, because I think you and Summers touched on it, that there's been so many times where we've went and played Old Firm and we've played really well, but then the match after it, performances have came right back down to earth and we've been pissed. So it was really important we built on that Rangers performance, and I think we can see that we definitely are building that performance.
Yeah, and it wasn't just a tactical change you made to that game. There seemed to be just a totally different mentality. It seemed to be, you know, we're going to go and have a go and we can win this rather than let's not lose this, as David's touched on before. David, what did you make of that when you were watching it? You know, the high press, the high intensity, putting pressure on Rangers.
I mean, I think we can all speak for ourselves, and when we do speak about like the criticisms that we give to Brian Rice and tactics, we're all three is are very fair about it. I don't think we say anything that's out of order or anything that's not justified. But I think probably I would say that you kind of got to maybe give him the benefit of the doubt, where we would call it these usual excuses and pish all season when he's saying it's like having a new signing coming back and we've been riddled by injuries and things like that, because once he had these players in the positions they're meant to play and had what we've now seen as now our kind of established 11, they did the absolute business. Everything he said that he wanted to do. I mean, we in the last podcast we said, what about this attacking football that he talks about? That's the first time we've seen it, and to be fair, it's excellent. The press and the intensity. I always thought one of the things for the last few seasons with Hamilton, especially when we played teams like Motherwell, I always thought these teams are so much more athletic than us. Motherwell especially, I thought their players were always so much bigger, but their guys, for the first time, I actually thought looked really fit and fit this style of play. So we've got to give the guy credit.
Just annoying it's taken until February to do it.
Exactly. I mean, we see. I mean, I think quite early on as fans, you can see who works and who doesn't. I mean, like I say, we're not having a go at the guy, but Ben Stirling, we said he contributes nothing. You put someone else in his place, and there you go. Something else has been added to the team. So it's not that like you called that coming. Charlie Trafford, I think, has done really, really well. To be fair, like you said, a midfielder playing in midfield. What are you expecting to happen? It's really positive. I think the only thing, not a negative, but the only thing that's kind of screams out to me now that we've got something clicking, it really shows the lack of depth in the squad. Because, I mean, don't get me wrong, every team in every league had their starting 11. And obviously, if you take players out of that, they will get weaker. But, for example, when we take Augie or Bruce Anderson off, we ain't scoring goals. I mean, the games where David Moyes came on, obviously, apart from the Millwall game, which we'll touch on, but when there's games him and Andy Winter come on, we just don't look threatening at all. So I think now that we've got something clicking, we've really shown the lack of depth we've got in the team.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, when you look at our bench in certain games, you know, you're thinking who can come on and A, improve that team, or A, solidify it if we're holding on to a lead. And you're completely right. When you bring on Moyo and Winter or Callum Smith, we're a completely different team. We're so much weaker and so much less attacking. And it's a big problem, because if Augie gets injured, as we've seen, which we'll touch on later on, we've now got David Moyo, if he's out for the next few games, leading our line, and we're not going to score goals or win games with David Moyo up top. But we'll go back to the Rangers game for the moment. I think in every game we'll talk about Bruce Anderson and the impact of Bruce Anderson, how much of a difference he's made. But that Rangers game, I thought it was unbelievable. His link-up play with Ogdenpo was brilliant. He was absolutely terrorising the Rangers defence, and very, very unlucky not to score right at the depth. Luckily, Callahan was there to pick it up. I mean, what were you thinking, Brandon, when you were sitting watching that game? We've got this boy in on loan. We keep hearing from Rice that he's always wanted him and he's a player we've always wanted the team. And we obviously talked to him before the game. I mean, what were you thinking watching that? How big of a difference he made?
Oh, it was huge, and it's what we've been calling out for. Like, I don't think Aki's fans are being unreasonable by wanting to sign players. Do you know what I mean? Throughout that full January, we were crying out just to be linked with someone, and it took to the very death of the window to be even linked with someone. Linked with Craig Whiting. Seems to have done well in his first game for Dunfermline, and then we've been linked with Bruce Anderson, and it just shows you that if we got Anderson in a bit sooner, then maybe we would have kicked on a bit earlier than we did the Ross County game or the Rangers game. So it's annoying in that aspect, but no, since he's came in and he's been able to breath of fresh air, that Rangers game, the fact that he's terrorised the by far the best team and the best defence in the league speaks volumes, and his way links up with Augie's pretty good as well, and that was shown in the Rangers game. So I think the sort of Rangers game, I think, was it 7 shots on target we had, the most any team, including in Europe. I don't know actually about the game on Thursday.
We beat Benfica on expected goals, and they had the most against Rangers, and we beat Benfica on expected goals. We were fantastic
So
in that game.
It just shows you that having a go at teams, no matter who they are, it would work for us, and it's something that we've lacked all season. So it was really good and really nice to see it against Rangers and getting the point eventually that we really did deserve.
And David, we deserved the point, but we did deserve a lot more, let's be honest. How were you feeling after the result? You're obviously buzzing to get the draw, but were you not a bit gutted not to get the win?
Not really, because you got to remember the draw came with the last kick of the ball. Mm-hmm. So obviously your thoughts at that point was, this is absolute robbery. We've been absolutely done here. And then last kick of the ball, we get a point for it. Obviously, in hindsight, we did definitely deserve the win. But when that goal came when it came, I was more than happy with it. Like I say, in hindsight, we definitely deserved more. But to score against an Old Firm, one of the strongest of the Old Firm teams that you've come across in a long time. Like I say, I think they've only conceded 9 goals all season. It was a great feeling, and it's unexpected because I was dreading that game. I wasn't interested at all. I'm not ashamed to say, especially like I say, the game that came before it.
Yeah.
So if you asked me 100 times, I'd have told you all 100. We were not getting anything at that game. So yeah, I was happy with the point.
And obviously the big positive came straight after that. We go into a game against Motherwell. Lanarkshire rivals. Obviously there's big talk before the game, as there always is. Motherwell fans going down to Strathclyde Park. Motherwell fans going down to Strathclyde Park with a banner. Fuck Accies. That went well, didn't it? Game finished Hamilton 4, Motherwell 1. A complete demolition. They shouldn't even have got the goal. It was a penalty handed to them. Wasn't even in the box. I mean, that game we saw what, Brandon, you were like after the game.
Valentine's Day was ruined.
Honestly, it was just incredible. The big thing we spoke about was consistency. And after such a good performance against Rangers, you need to carry that on, because the Rangers result would have meant nothing if we then went against Motherwell and get beat. So to continue that and actually improve on that performance was incredible to see, because I don't think we'd have gotten better than drawing 1-1 Rangers, but we bettered that performance against Motherwell. David, I'll come to you first this time. Before the game, what were your thoughts going into that?
In all honesty, I was confident. Regardless of the Rangers result, that had nothing to do with it. I don't know what it is. We're just, I think quite a few team fans have said this season, that Motherwell, in all the games we've seen them this season, they've been the poorest team I've seen in their division. Probably by a mile. I was confident. I don't know why. Especially the recent games, what's that, 5 derbies undefeated now, won 4 of them. I just had no fear at all. And like you say, with the season we've been having, you don't go into games very confident very often, but I can honestly say I was. I was expecting a big result. I mean, I remember us briefly speaking before, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, and I said, with some of the signings that Motherwell have made, the amount of signings for one, I said that'll bite them on the arse. That's too many players to expect too much for, with not many games left to play. You can't change an entire 11 at this time. So what was that, 7 or 8 signings they made? I was confident, and don't get me wrong, I'd be lying to say I expected it to go the way it did. 3-0 up in half an hour. We were absolutely relentless, absolutely pumped them all over the park. It was brilliant. Like I say, I can honestly say I was expecting the win, not to the extent that it came as, but no, I was very confident, and now we can see rightly so.
And Brandon, it was much more of the same, an improvement on what we saw against Rangers. High press, constant battling in the midfield. Hakima Dolphin was just phenomenal that game. Link up between Augie and Anderson. I mean, we all know, like I said, how you were like after the game, but during the game, were you nervous? I was totally carefree that game. It never looked like we had an issue. We were all.
I was nervous until 3-0, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay, no, that's fair. That is fair.
Negative
Aki's.
mindset, and it's Aki's. Do you know what I mean? So until when it went 3-0, that's when the bottle line was finished, and the sort of party started, as was clearly seen after it. But no, every man done their job, and that's how it worked. Everyone was superb. High press was class. Motherwell particularly didn't show up, which kind of helped. But no, we were, as you say, relentless. The fact that we built on the Rangers' performance and played even better just shows. If we didn't take the foot off the gas, and God knows what the score could have been. Fair enough, we took the foot off the gas. We brought a few players off. It's understandable, I suppose, but it would have been good if we could have got a few more. Not that I'm complaining with a 4-1 win, but no, it's just, it was good to see, because it was a type of football that we've been trying to see all season, and we know that there is the ability there in some of the players. It's just they hadn't been played in the right positions, and it just nothing was clicking. But everything clicked that game, and even Moyle scored.
Even David Moyle scored. I mean, David, that was the real point I saw a great link up between Marius Ogumpo and Bruce Anderson. Obviously Bruce Anderson scored one, assisted one, his assist coming to Marius Ogumpo. I mean, watching that, you kind of see from the Rangers game that they had a little something, but it was the Motherwell game that really showed me this is a partnership we can work with, and this is one that could really, really save us this season. If these guys can keep fit and keep firing, this could be the partnership that saves us.
I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why we've been as frustrated with with Ogumpo as much as we have this season, because over the last couple of years we've seen what this guy can do. He's a very good centre forward. He may well be one of the better ones we've had in recent years, definitely. Probably one of the better since the likes of Courier. Not maybe up to that level in my opinion, but he's definitely shown it. So the fact that it has been so, let's not kid around, he's been absolutely awful this season up until recently. It was nice to see that he hadn't just down tools, and clearly it was a system and he needed a partner. And I mean, I remember saying to you, Bruce Anderson, I mean, his goal, we do not have a single striker on that squad that could take that touch and bury that as quickly into the style that he did. I mean, it's a phenomenal prospect that we've got on our hands. I mean, if I can kind of go off topic a wee bit to elaborate on Bruce Anderson, I mean, every single Accies fan, we want him permanently, but we're all very realistic, and we're thinking the fact that he's delivering the way that he is, it's going to be very unlikely. I mean, number one,
I mean, I don't think it's unlikely, because he started off phenomenal for us, right? But look at it on the flip side. He's not done. He's had his chance with Aberdeen. Maybe no a chance fully, but he's clearly not grabbed that. He's went to Ayr. He's not done well at Ayr. He's came here. He's got the confidence of the fact that the fans. I don't think he's been appreciated, as he said. He's not been appreciated anywhere he's went. Because he kicked on so well. He started his career with Accies. I just don't see why we couldn't sign him unless Aberdeen offer him a contract. We don't need to pay a development fee for him unless Aberdeen do offer him a contract. So the fact that he's came out in the media and he said how he feels wanted, he's never felt that anywhere yet. If Accies offer him a good wage, if we stay in this division, we offer him a right wage. We've shown what he can offer. But let's not forget, he's not going to play like this every single match.
Yeah.
He started his career off with Accies really well. But
So did
there's a reason, not to try and put a negative tarnish on Bruce Anderson, because I fucking love the cunt. There's a reason why he's at Accies now. He's not done it. He's not done it anywhere else yet. And Accies can be the platform for him to kickstart his career for now. And I just think having the confidence of the fans that are clearly taking to him, because with Accies fans, if they take to you, then you're going to be like a fan favourite. If they don't take to you, you'll get tarnished, no matter if you fucking go and score a double hat-trick. So he's clearly took well to the Accies fans. Accies fans love him. So I just think if the opportunity is there, I don't think he's going to be on a lot of money. I think it is possible personally.
Yeah, I don't think it's unrealistic either, if I'm being honest. I think speaking to some Aberdeen fans, they don't see it likely that he'll get offered a new contract. So I'm gonna disregard Aberdeen. I'm not saying it won't happen given how well he's played. Could Aberdeen maybe come and sign him even for an extra year just to see if something can start? But I don't see it happening. The big thing for me will be if we stay in the division, because if we drop down to the Championship and try and sign him, we'll think, I tried it in the Championship, didn't work. I was in the Premiership last year with you guys and did great. Why would I drop down to the Championship again? I think it depends on A, how much money we offer, and B, where his head's at. Now, David, you said before that you hope his head's on straight and he sees that he has something here at Accies. But I do think that if we drop down, he'll think to himself, why would I drop down when I know I can do it in the Premiership? You know,
I don't know.
I don't think he'll be short of Premiership offers.
I don't think the league is going to have anything to do with it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's easy for me to say this because I'm not a footballer and I've not got a contract for like £1,500 a week sitting in front of me. But the way I see it, like Brandon's already put, he was with Aberdeen for 4 or 5 years. I personally don't see him being interested there. I think he's had his chance, limited chance. He's came out and all of a sudden, now that he's doing well elsewhere, Aberdeen might be offering him a new deal. I think he'll be thinking, no, fuck you, I never got a chance there. I'm going elsewhere.
He's wrong.
I think part of him though, and this is no disrespect to the boy, I think when he went to Ayr United, now granted, looking at it, if you actually do look into it, he didn't get a lot of chances there. I think it was only something like 11 appearances. I think even he thought that he would have lit up that league. I mean, if I was a striker coming from a Premier League team, a team like Ayr United, the first thing I'd be thinking is, I'm going to be the new Shankland. And it didn't work at all. So I think he realised that even at a lower level, it wasn't working. What it is I've said this a million times with players, it's the Tony Andrew effect, basically, where that Tony Andrew, when we got him for Livy, he was released by a bottom, like mid to bottom side of Livy, who weren't doing anything. They didn't want him. We got him a free transfer, and all of a sudden, he absolutely lit it up. And then he was getting offers this way, that way. He made a few moves. Tell me one move that actually worked in his favour after leaving Accies. Not a single one, not even coming back to Accies, apart from relegating Dundee. But even that was a penalty. Well, the way I see it is if Bruce Anderson has got his head on straight, he realises that the style of football that we're playing, the management under Brian Rice, to give him his credit, he just fits with us now. So if he's got his head on straight, he'll be thinking to himself, listen, give myself another year here. If I can keep doing what I'm doing and prove it's no fluke, the real offers elsewhere will come in. If he goes to back to Aberdeen. End of the day, they're a big club. They'll need a big centre forward signing like a Canberra coming in. Bruce Anderson isn't going to go ahead of him. Even teams like St Johnstone and things like that, this is where, they're a bigger team, they'll give me more money. But that style of football might not suit him. Ayr United didn't suit him. So hopefully he realises he's on to a good thing with us and gives himself at least a year. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Si, senor.
Si, senor. Let's get back on the finish the Motherwell game, though. We touched on Hakeem Adoff and how great he was. I mean, he's so important to our midfield. We know he's dropped into defence, obviously, recently. We'll touch on that later. But when he's in that midfield, he just completely bosses it. And I want to ask you a question, Brandon. Gogic or Odoffin?
Odoffin or Dillon. Odoffin can play football. He can. There's a reason Odoffin, I suppose you could say the same Gogic started his career at Swansea, but he's good on the ball. He presses brilliantly. I'm not for a second saying Gogic wasn't good, because Gogic did have a good half a season with us, but it took Gogic a while to start showing that he could possibly be a good player, and he was a good player for us. Odoffin has, since we signed him, whether he was playing right back, centre mid, even up front at times, whenever he's been got asked to play, he's looked a good player. So that seems that on its own says that he's a better player in my opinion, because he's very versatile. The way I think Joel Sked, our favourite fucking non-Accies fan, always praises him. It's just the way he presses players. He's very confident on the ball. He can pass a ball. He can do Zidane turns like we saw against Motherwell. It just oozes class at the moment, and he has for some time. And if a Dolphin plays well, we play well, put it that way.
Yeah.
And it needs to be in that holding role, because I'm sure we'll touch on it when the St Mirren game happens, but for us to work the way in which Rice wants us to work to a certain level, which we have against Rangers and Motherwell, Odoffin needs to be in that holding role, because that's where the pressing comes from, and that's where he'll have that sort of domino effect in the players around him. I'm not saying he can't play in centre back, because he's played, like I touched on 2 seconds ago, he's played at right back, he's played centre back, and he does the job good. But for us to continue the sort of level that we've shown against Rangers and Motherwell, it needs to be in that holding midfield role.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think if he's not in that game, if he's not in that midfield, we're a hell of a lot weaker, which we'll come to touch on against St Mirren and Hibs, and that does lead us on to that St Mirren game. Going into the St Mirren game, we're on a complete and utter high. We've got a consistent lineup going. Our defence is looking good. Our attack seems to be shining, and we've got a sturdy midfield. And then we're hit really early on with the Adam.
Of course, we get somebody injured. Of course,
which is just our luck.
I don't think. See, on that note, I saw the injury. It was quite a bad injury. He's got hurt. His foot's been stamped on, so it's understandable. But this season, the amount of injuries is fucking ridiculous. We could honestly field about 5 different teams with the amount of people we've had injured at the one time. It's insane. And see if this was like a Rangers or a Celtic, see the amount of outcry their fans would have, saying, "Oh, look how many injuries we've had throughout the season."
Yeah,
we've been hit really bad. So that's one thing you can say about Rice. How it has been hard for him, because he's up against it with the sort of squad he's got at the best of times, but to be hit with 10, 12 players injured at the one time and being very key players. The St Mirren, Alan Martin getting injured, it completely changed the dynamic of the sort of game. I think this St Mirren game, we kick-started the match fairly all right, but then that injury happened, and then St Mirren just completely took over the match.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's kind of that's where I was going with it, where when I was touching about Odoffin being part of that midfield, as soon as he dropped to centre back, and he did well in centre back, like you said, he's performed well in any position he's played in, but we did lose that presence. And as much as I love Scott Martin and I love the energy he brings, and we'll touch on him against Hibs, he just isn't the same kind of player. Do you know, he's not the kind of player to just sit in that hole, intercept, make the challenges and push the team forward. Here's your runner. He's your man who's doing all the chasing.
Him and Adolphin,
they work so well
perfect
together.
Yes.
I absolutely agree. But as soon as he dropped it, it did completely change the game. David, before I asked, did you see this game?
The St Mirren game?
Yeah.
Aye.
Okay, cool. So I just not know you've watched. So as Brandon said, we started so strong, but that did really change the game. David, when we went that 1-0 down, what were you thinking at that time? Were you thinking, here we go again? Or like me, were you quietly confident that even though we've lost Adam Martin, we've still got enough in us to come back in this?
It was a different game, that game. I mean, up until the goal, I was as confident with us going forward as I was scared that we was at the back. I mean, St Mirren, I think they did their homework on us and they kind of sussed out our way of playing where guys like Ross Callahan were completely nullified in the game. He had a really quiet game. The fullbacks at times were completely taken out of the game as well, because that's where we do most of our delivering, a lot of our running. But at the same time, there were times where players like Scott McMahon had Richard Tate in his back pocket at times. I mean, 9 times out of 10 he was getting by the guy. It was a very, very even game. If anything, I actually think going behind did us a bit of good, because I don't know if we'd have scored first with the way things were going. We definitely dominated the larger part of the game after going behind. I mean, to be fair, St Mirren are a half decent team. The boy, what's the boy's name that scored? Durmas?
Durmas.
Like he looks a good player, to be fair. It was a really, really even game. And even then we'd got a bit of luck with a goal as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'd say one each. I said after the game, one each was a fair reflection of it.
Can't argue at all.
St Mirren dominated the first, and I think we dominated the second. I do agree that that goal gave us a kick up the arse, because when we got that goal, we just seemed to think, right, well, we're not going to lose this game. Do you know what I mean? Might as well.
That was early in the season. We did lose that game.
Aye, that's
early in the season.
Aye, like,
we could have played the same sort of ability and level, and earlier in that season we wouldn't have got a point in that game. But that shows the sort of kick up the arse we've had and the sort of change in mentality the past couple of weeks have been. And once again, the sort of it's just weird, because the full season we've lacked any sort of, I don't know, even though we might have won a couple of games throughout the season, we've never been a threat against teams. We've never looked as if we're troubling or challenging them. But this whole different dynamic where we've got Anderson and Augie, and Callahan behind them, we're looking as if we're threatening, we're attacking with a bit of, I don't know, Scott McMahon's going forward, getting balls in the box. They might not be the best, but we do look as if we're threatening teams, and we've got the ability to actually have a go at them. Whereas earlier in the season, that's just been completely non-existent. It's night and day with it is. And that St Mirren game, we showed that. We might have not played brilliant, and we've still came out with a point in it, and we could have snatched off at the end if Augie is a better finisher. Which speaks volumes for how far we've sort of came these past couple of weeks, in my opinion. Yeah,
I mean, I know it's ifs, buts, and maybes, but if that ball falls to Bruce Anderson, and
it's a goal all day long.
3 points there.
Augie's not a finisher, in my opinion.
No, he's a bruiser.
Aye, he does the sort of
dirty work.
Aye, he lets the ball bounce off him, and his big elephant touch puts it in somebody's line of fucking attack. But no, he's not finishing. It was unfortunate that he didn't finish that one, but I think a point was a fair result in that game.
And moving on to our final game now against Hibs. Now, obviously finished 2-0. There's not a huge amount I think we can speak about the actual game itself. It's more the decisions that were made within the game and then what followed. But we'll talk about the start of the game, because we go in there and we are the better side for the first, 15 minutes before the sending off. Unlucky not to be ahead. Scott McMahon has a great chance. Marius Ogumpo hits the post. And we spoke about it after the game as well, how much the red card impacted that game. I mean, Brandon, what what were your thoughts? What were you thinking at the start of that game? Because we started so positively and so well.
To be fair, I wasn't expecting us to start that well. I thought this was going to be the start of sort of like fairly like a downward sort of spiral.
Okay.
But no, we came out all guns blazing and were by far the better side. Were pressing them brilliantly, which I thought was quite surprising with the fact that Odolphin was centre back, because our pressing games usually leaps and bounds when he's in this sort of defensive mid role compared to when he's at the back. But no, we were doing everything right, and like you've said, there's no point in really talking about the game that much. We talked about it after the game, and the decision ruins the game.
David, I've got in my notes here that it was a split decision. I saw a few fans saying that it was a definite red, and some are still standing by the decision, which, fair enough. It's their opinion. I was speaking to a lot of Hibs fans about this, and they were adamant it's a red card and going about how dangerous it is, and how, if that card gets rescinded, why isn't Porteous foul against Morelos not getting? But what's your opinion, David, on the red card? Is it a booking? Is it the right decision to rescind it? What do you think?
100%. Like, don't talk pish, saying that's a good challenge. I mean, the only thing I will say is it's very, very quick. Like, it goes in at some pace. And I think we could probably say that of all the kind of red cards you've seen, like 9 times out of 10, the player doesn't make that challenge. So I think that's why the refs made such an immediate decision on that, with the sheer pace he's went in. But like you say, you look and it's a perfect challenge. I mean, he gets the ball, it clips the man on the follow through with a trailing leg, but I think it was just the whole kind of pace that he went in that has made the refs mind up. But it's a completely clean challenge when you see the stills of it as well. And even then, I mean, I didn't actually catch the game live because I was working, but even watching it in real time on the highlights, not being biased towards Aki's, but I thought that was a clean challenge, quite clearly.
And after, obviously, we now know it's been rescinded. And Brandon, you said online that the fact it took less than 48 hours speaks volumes.
Of course, because I don't know if that's them, because the SFA fucked up with the whole assistant referee. Should be self-isolating? So I don't know if they thought, we better just fucking sweeten them up a bit and just rescind it straight away. But I just think it speaks volumes, because the fact that it's never a red card, it just shows how pathetic this football is this day and age. That if that's a red card, he's went in a bit quick, but he doesn't touch the player. He wins the ball, the player makes a meal of it, the referee doesn't have a clue, looks at his linesman, the linesman should have been self-isolating, ironically enough, and they give a red card. Stupid decision, cost us the game. No saying for a second it would have definitely won that game, but the game was there clearly for the taking. Hibs didn't look special even when we had 10 men, so it changed the game completely. And there's no point in talking about the game any further, in my opinion, because it's just a lost cause after that happened.
I think there was some positives to take. I don't want to sound like Brian Rice, but there was some positive to take from the game. We spoke about it after as well. Ryan Fulton saves the penalty, makes a few good saves to keep the score down. But it was Scott Martin who you gave your man of the match. Now, obviously, he's not been in. He's been injured recently, and it's been Trafford and the Dolphin the last few games. And I feared when a Dolphin had to drop to defence, not being in midfield, we're still lacking him. I still think that. But Scott Martin, that was his first game kind of after he was back from injury, that I thought kind of looked like the Scott Martin of old. Never stopped running. He led the press, and he was your man of the match after it.
He was all over the park. There was points he was the highest player up in the field, and then there was points where he was the most deep player in the field. He was everywhere, and when you're a man down, you need a player like that, because you're on the back foot constantly. So to have someone that's running everywhere and anywhere for you was the reason I gave him my man of the match. It was maybe a bit harsh on Fulton, because Fulton was really good and he came into the game quite well, as Josh here touched on. But nah, I just thought Martin done everything you could ask for him. But I still think he still needed you still need a Dolphin centre mid. I read a comment for a fan. What was it? He says he doesn't care if it's Chrissy Lindsay beside him. Then then you need a Dolphin still centre mid, which I probably agree with. You need just put another defender at centre back if we're going to be like, if Aaron Martin's going to be out for a wee bit extra. I don't know. I'd even go with George Stanger if Sean wants no fit, just for the fact that you'll have a Dolphin in that holding midfield role, because it's crucial he's there. And I think all the plaudits and all the stats and everything you're seeing over social media about a Dolphins game, all of that has come from when he's in that midfield role.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we need a Dolphin in that midfield. Just before we move on to the next topic, just to finish off the Hibs game, we did pick another injury up in that game, Marius Ogumpo getting brought off. We heard in the news today we got an injury update today.
I know, hold me back.
Imagine that. An injury update. We heard that Aaron Martin and Marius Ogumpo both had scans. Not quite got the full results back yet, so they don't know the severity of it. But from what they're saying, they're not as bad as they first feared.
I think the fact that there's scans involved is worrying, because you tend to, I don't know if it's just because it's the first time we've actually heard about an injury update, that's us finding out. If maybe beforehand scans are always involved, I don't know. It's a unknown quantity as Accies fans, these injuries updates. So it's a bit worrying that there's scans involved, but hopefully it's not as bad as first thought, because we're going to struggle if both of the players are out to sort of replace them to a sufficient level. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke after the game that if we have any chance of picking up points and winning games to keep us in the league, that partnership of Marius Ogumpo and Bruce Anderson needs to continue, and we need to have Adam Martin in defence. So to have those two players out specifically is a huge loss. And those two are players that are out of contract at the end of the season, and we've got a little list of players that supposedly are out of contract, and we don't know obviously the details of them.
Accies don't tend to tell you if players get signed new deals until actually they don't even tell you. Exactly. So you never know, man. But I think for the list that we're about to mention, these are ones that certainly would get mentioned if they had signed a new deal. So it'll be interesting to discuss them.
So the likes of Marius Ogumpo, he's supposedly up at the end of the season. We know that Adam Martin only signed a 1-year deal. So we know he's up. You've got the likes of Akima Dolphin, who we've been preaching about all over online. Brian Easton, club captain. Lee Hodson, we know, is only on a year-long loan, so he will either return to the club or become a free agent. There's other youngsters here. Regan Mimno, Kyle Monroe, apparently out of contract as well. Nathan Thomas, we know, is only 1 year. And just, listing off those players there, they're players that are either in the first team or in the squad. So it is a bit worrying to see the list of players that could possibly be leaving us at the end of the season.
I don't really know how I feel about that. I mean, I think there's more key players signed up for next year than we've ever had, if my memory's right. Because don't get me wrong, we've got like Callahan, you've got guys like Jamie Hamilton, you've got Scott Martin, the guys are all definitely signed up. I think Ogbo, depending on how he does the rest of the season, I would offer him a new deal. But let's not shy away. We've said it plenty of times. This is, in my opinion, his worst season for us so far. I don't know if that's his fault entirely. I don't know if it's the system, but he's been pretty diabolical this season. It goes without saying, a Dolphin has to be offered a new deal. I mean, it gives me the genuine fear. If I'm being honest, I don't see it happening. There's no way that this guy's going unnoticed. Especially the last couple of weeks, Brandon just touched on the amount of tweets and social media response to this guy. We need to get him a new deal. Hopefully, this, like I said earlier in the podcast, it's one of those things we're just hoping that the boy's head screwed on and he's realised that he's doing well. He's not necessarily done much up until this point in his career, and he's now kind of found his form, he's found his club. So hopefully he gives us at least another year. But I'd be saying, even if he's got no intention of kind of staying with us long term, get a deal down just to get some money in. I mean, when was the last time? What was it? Tony Andre was the last time we signed a player and then sold them on for money. I mean, I've seen a tweet. I don't know who from, sorry, but I seen a tweet during the week that Lucas tagged a feature after
$3 million.
What was it, £1 million or £3 million?
£3 million, aye.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just about being savvy, man. It's not all about, like, in one of the earlier podcasts when I was talking about younger players from around Scotland, and I think it was Brandon that said Accies would never go for these players because it would show, if anything, a sign of weakness in our own academy. And we want to be, oh no, we don't need other young players. We develop our own. I kind of feel like that's what they're doing with, like, like the sell-on. They want all the like major money to be made from the academy instead of a sell-on player. I mean, for me, I'd offered a Dauphin a deal months ago. I don't know about you.
The thing with the sort of Dauphin thing that sort of pisses me off a wee bit is we're seen to, and I don't know what wage he's on now, but for instance, an example of what I'm trying to say here is David Moyle has 2 good games last year, gets a new deal straight away. They think, they've seen something in him because he's had 2 good games, so they give him a new deal straight away. And this is when he was sort of seen as a sort of, I don't know, sort of fan favourite as such. Sort of. So you'd have thought with that logic, at the start of the season, when our Dolphins banging in our only goals that we're getting for set pieces, just tie him up, and then if he works out, you're going to make your money. I personally think it's too late now because you've got the fucking Falcons or whatever the Vultures. Sorry, got that bit out. You've got the
Falcons.
Right, okay. You've got the. I think it's too late because you've got the Vultures hanging about now, understanding what he's capable of. He'll be expecting his agent's no stupid. His agent will tell him that he'll have offers. He'll get good offers. But as David says, I think both a Dauphin and the club need to be more smart about it because it's clear as day this season he's probably every Accies fan's favourite player in my opinion. He's been our best player without a shadow of a doubt, and he's only going to improve on that. When he's here, he's going to constantly get his opportunity. He's going to constantly be the first name in the team sheet. It can only improve from here on in. So if Accies are clever by offering them a new deal, they might need to pay a wee bit over the odds to what they're used to with wage-wise, but they'll make it back. It's clear as day they'll make it back. I don't just see this as being a sort of one hit sort of wonder season for a Dauphin. He's young. He's came through the ranks of Premier League clubs. He's got a move after the Premier League club to. So he was at Spurs, then he went to Reading, and then went to Barnet, and then Wolves have saw something in him when he was at Barnet, and then it sort of slowly went downhill since then. But then he's clearly found his level again with us because he's getting played and week in, week out. Brian Rice has put faith in him in a new position, and he's just phenomenal. He's outstanding, and that stat you saw with the most interceptions getting under 23 player in Europe is just insane. When do you ever see a sort of Aki stat like that? But I just really hope, I think it's criminal we've no signed him up until now, but I just think they need to I wouldn't even say it's breaking the bank, they just need to offer a bit more than they're used to, and they'll make the money on it. There's not going to be shortage of offers if we make it, whether or not we sign them up.
A full year in that middle of the park. I mean, like you said, he's just found his position. He's starting to really deliver. Your career, another year, showing what you can do. Hopefully, like we said, we make a good offer because he does deserve it. But he has his head screwed on as well and realised that this is why it's clicking for him now. Same with Bruce Anderson. They've not really done much up until this point. So try and enjoy it a bit longer.
I think talking about other players as well, because I think we had to talk about a Dauphin for some time there because he definitely deserves it, and it's probably the main person contract-wise we should be discussing. But when you're talking about the other players there, for instance, like David touched on Ogumpo there slightly, I think that might be one of the ones. Well, actually, they would announce him, I suppose, but he'll be here next year, in my opinion. Regardless of what division we're in. I've said it for a while. I think he'd be a really good striker in the Championship, but I just don't see. He's too inconsistent for anybody else to take a punt on. As far as I'm aware, I've not heard of any other teams sort of or European clubs that he could possibly go to. I just think he'll definitely be here next year. Eastie, I think he's another one. We see as the games are going on, he looks as if he's about to collapse sometimes.
He's shown, I think, a few times.
He's just certainly shown. He's came back to us at sort of the tail end of his career. He's unfortunate with injuries. He's our captain. He'll be here to see out his career, in my opinion. So I would be surprised if he's signed up very soon. Other players, Regan Mimnon, Kyle Monroe.
I think they're going to be here anyway, as well. I think they'll sign up.
Mimno, I'm not 100% sure about, because I've heard that Mimno's had offers to go out and loan, etc. But Brian Rice has stopped him from doing it. Where he's at this age where, when he first came onto the scene with us, he looked as if he was certainly going to be a good prospect. He looked as if he was going to be a fairly regular starter for us, and he's not got that opportunity. He's had opportunity. He's been offered opportunities to go elsewhere, and he's not been given them by the management. So, although I actually would like him to stay on, he's one of the two where I don't see him signing on personally. I think he'll go and try and get first team football elsewhere, perhaps at a championship club.
That's very interesting.
I don't know if us being in the SPL is what's kind of hindering him a wee bit.
Like the sort of Ali Crawford, etc.
Exactly,
I know what you mean.
I mean, I remember being in the stand for one of the games, but Regan Mimno was in front of me, and he was absolutely toty. Like, he didn't have any frame on him at all. You forget he is still a young kid. It must be difficult to try and bed him into that. I mean, you look how physical some of the teams are.
And that's how you sort of do feel for him, but you feel for Rice as well, in a way that he's probably not ready to be a fully first team player. But the lack of depth in that squad is horrendous, and for him to send him out on loan, it would be too risky with the amount of injuries we're getting and how much lack of players we've got, which is unfortunate for both, because he goes out on loan, he is getting first team football, his potential will just increase. He'll be getting the first team football element. He'd come back, and who knows, he might kick on and be a first team footballer, but the opportunity just clearly isn't there, because the lack of depth in squad is too much for us to send players out on loan.
I think a loan to a lower league would help him physically as well. Like, going to, we've seen players getting loaned out to League One teams and stuff like that. I think that would help him immensely, just being part of a rougher game. Do you know what I mean? I think it would help toughen him up a little bit, so that if he does come back to us, it would maybe be a bit more kind of gritty and a bit more ready to come in and start battling with these kind of more physical teams.
These guys are thrown into the deep end, so that probably speaks volume of how good maybe Jamie Hamilton and Sean Watt actually are, because they are performing well, and they're doing it purely at a Premiership level. So if you maybe put, for example, Jamie Hamilton into a strong Championship team, you might actually realise that he is.
I think Jamie Hamilton has shown, when he's been thrown in the deep end at the Premier League, that his potential is massive. And I totally understand the point you're making, David, because I'd maybe compare that with Sean Watt if you put him in a strong Championship team, because he's not really played on a consistent basis for us in the first team whilst being in the Premiership. But if he was playing on a consistent basis in a Championship team, he'd probably be a better player than what he is just now, if we're being honest. But it just is what it is, I suppose. And then I think one to smoothly move on to there, talking about the centre backs, is Aaron Martin.
Yeah.
I think I've saw people commenting stuff on social media saying how his family's down in Southampton still. I mean, a lot of footballers are like that, where their family, COVID obviously, to disregard COVID, a lot of footballers are in that sort of bracket where their families are still down south and they're up here. Steven Gerrard, for example, his family are down south still, and he's been here for some time. I mean, Aaron Martin's at that age, his career, where he's been brilliant for us, and I would love him to sign on for another year. And if we were in the top tier, you never know, we could. I just think he's at that age. His family's down south. He's got a young family down south. He won't be short of offers down Southampton if that's where he stays. So I think he's came up here, prove his point that he can do it up here, which is probably what he wanted to sort of do near his end of his career. Being in England the full time, wanted to see if he could hack it up here. He's proven he could, clearly. He's going to probably just go back down south now and be near his family, in my opinion. But I'd hope it's I'd hope that's not the case.
You've taken the word right out of my mouth there, mate. I'm exactly going to say the exact same thing.
I personally don't see him being here, but I do have a bit more confidence than I've ever had that we'll replace him. I mean, I've said it not on a podcast to both of you separately that this is probably our most successful season in regards to transfers. Whether or not we keep Hakeem Odoffin, he's definitely going to end up, maybe in a year or this summer, he'll get a bigger move without a doubt, in my opinion. That's only going to, I think, make it more attractive for players to come to a team like Hamilton when you realise, listen, if you come here, if you're fit, you're playing every week, I think it is going to start getting a bit easier for us to bring players in. Granted, we got the same excuses all season about, we had the deal lined up and they pulled out at the last minute, but I do think a couple of guys will start looking a bit more. When you look at, for example, Mikael Miller, I don't think he's doing it amazing, but he's got a bigger move, making a lot more money. Alex Skogic was kind of stranded at one point. He's now doing much better. Hakeem Odoffin is getting probably the most publicity I've ever seen from a Hamilton signing. So it's not like you're going to go up to Scotland, to the smallest team in the league, and be hid under a rock forever. If you play well, you will get noticed. So I think that's going to maybe hopefully do us a bit better in the transfer market going forward. Like I say, I don't want it to bite me in the arse, but I do think that it will be seen as a more favourable move than ever.
No, I understand what you're saying, mate, definitely, and I can understand the logic behind it, and fingers crossed in the future that is the case, but I think it will be granted on what league we're in next year, to be fair. I think there's a few other players that are out of contract that I don't think we should go that in depth in, to be fair. You've got Ben Sterling, apparently. Don't know if that's the case or no, but
this
to
is
be
the
fair,
problem with doing a contract thing about Accies is
you don't know that the lower end sort of people, you don't know if they are tied into a new deal or not. So I suppose I would better no touch on any other players because we don't really know the case. I think one person that I suppose we might have talked a wee bit about him, he's not really our player, but he's out of contract, is Bruce Anderson. I think we've touched on him earlier on in the podcast. So I wouldn't go that much more back in depth about it, but I just think it's massive that we should go for him.
What did you make of the article that was out the other day about how he said he's not giving up on Aberdeen? What did you make of it?
I mean, it needs to say stuff like that, though. Do you know what I mean? You've got Aberdeen fans piling the pressure a bit more on McInnes with their situation. They've signed these players. They've not really hit the ground running. I think one of them's actually get injured, if I'm right in saying. Somebody sent me a message. I don't know if it was Canberra or not. So one of their signings apparently is injured, which worried me a wee bit in case they recalled Hornby. That's the one. So that worried me a wee bit in case they recalled Anderson. But that article itself, I just think it needs to say stuff like that. He's not exactly going to be like that. No, fuck you, Aberdeen. I'm shining here. I'm not even thinking about you. My career will go elsewhere after this loan move. He's obviously going to put himself in Aberdeen's fans sort of limelight to say, look, I can perform here. I'm doing this here. You need to give me a chance. You need to offer me a wage, pretty much. So I wouldn't look that much into that and what he specifically said. I think he's been clever about it, but he's, like I said, he's no stupid. If he's not going to get an opportunity at Aberdeen, fingers crossed it'll be with us.
But players like Bruce Anderson, Hakeem Odoffin, we need to sign them up as soon as possible to get us ready for next season, whatever league we're in.
And I think that's where we always seem to talk about how Accies are ill-prepared going into a new season. And we always talk about, Accies always kick in January, etc., February. It's Accies sort of time to shine. Well, you just wonder where we actually could be in the league if we had planned better and we actually had all this prepared. I totally understand the board's logic where they don't know what league they're going to be in, so they don't want to risk it. But just show a wee bit of ambition. You need to risk it. If we do stay up and you've done that risk, then we're prepped for the new season. We can plan ahead, and if we're going to perform the way in which we have recently at the start of the season, who knows where we can be. I'm not going to be overly optimistic and shout stupid St Mirren shouts like top 6, but you never actually know, because the standard of the league isn't exactly the best, and the way we've been performing when we've eventually found how we can the best sort of positions for players, the best formation, the best setup. If we've had that set up going into an actual season, then there's no knowing where we could be.
Aye, no, that's a perfect point, because that leads me to like two things that fucking frustrate the life out of me being an Accies fan. Because in the previous podcast, I said it's not like we're trying to be over ambitious. We're just trying to get us to, like I say, we've survived 7 seasons in the Premiership. It's just a point where you've got to say, like, we're surviving. We need to try and do more. So, like, earlier
we're not asking us to do over too much. Just by doing these simple things, we're signing players we've got that have performed well on a new deal, so we're going into a season actually knowing what we've got, rather than waiting until fucking November when it's no good enough and fans having to make up that we're going to go to trips to Selkirk to sign players and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? It's just I don't understand it. I just think it's lack of ambition, but it's not exactly huge ambition we're asking for. We're just asking for sort of.
There's been a couple of occasions this season where my head's been really down after games, and my old man will say to me, "Listen, what are you fucking getting? What are you getting wound up for? Get to the new year and they'll be established, and then they'll start picking up results. And then see when we do, he's like, see, I told you that's happening." I'm like, Dad, that fucking winds me up, mate.
Yeah.
Because it's like you said, see if we actually got our act together. See if we walk into the start of the season with the starting 11 we've got now. It's that, like you say, it's not like we're being stupid, but you'd be more than comfortable. You could be pushing for top 6. That would be fucking brilliant to be an Accies fan then. And then you've got, like, I've got plenty of friends that are all film fans. They're like, "Oh, that Mary Zogenpo, he's a fucking anyway." I'm like, yeah, against you. He doesn't fucking bother his arse any other time. So see when Ogbo puts in a performance like he does against the Old Firm when the Sky camera's out, again, it doesn't actually please me. It pisses me off more. Because, again, at the Rangers result, I was over the moon. Like you say, I said earlier in the podcast, because we were trailing, I was delighted with the point. On hindsight, we should have got more, but having just gave away a lead and lost a couple of days ago against a team we really should have been beating, you're kind of like, right, so where the fuck was this a couple of days ago? So it's I do think you're right, Brandon, where it is just we're not prepared. See if we actually got the contracts dealt with now, and like, right, whether we're championship or we're survive the playoffs or we're finished in the Premiership, we're ready to go next season despite where we are or what we're doing. It comes to this time of the season and I look back at some of the starting 11s at the start of the season and you're like, right, where the fuck is he going? Who is this guy? And it's just about being organised.
This podcast is a long one, so we'll jump on finally to our fan questions. We'll try and get through these quickly as we can. If we don't answer yours, we do apologise, but there's a lot to get through. Alistair Knox has asked, is it finally time for Rice to stop playing Moyo? Is Moyo a lost cause? Do we give up on Moyo, Brandon?
No.
You don't give up on Moyo?
No, don't give up on Moyo.
Okay, David?
I agree. I think, like Brandon said earlier, I actually think he could use a year in the Championship. I think he'll be the same as I'd be interested to see him play with Bruce Anderson. Like I say, he's shown no more than Ogbo has. Moyo's got a better work rate. He's more athletic than Ogbo. If anything, he could actually work better with Anderson. One of the points you said earlier too, when you said about Moyo getting a new deal based on 2 performances last season. Am I not right in saying though that he signed that at the tail end of last year and then we gave him another extension at the start of this season as well? He needs to have a go at this new system as well. I never thought he was a lone striker.
I think I've said it many a time in past podcasts. I don't think he's a striker personally, and I think he's goal per game ratio proves it. I think it's 1 every 15 or something. So I think that proves it. When he's played out in the wing a few times and he has caused problems. That Motherwell game, we beat them 2-1. He was out in the wing. I don't know. I wouldn't give up on him just yet. I know my pals will fucking go right through me because every one of them think he's rank rotten, but I just wouldn't give up on him just yet, especially when we don't know what league we'll be in.
My opinion is yes. I think give up on David Moyle. I remember speaking to David and that after a few weeks after, I think it was the Rangers game where he scored the winner, and we were talking about it. And I remember saying the boy scored 2 goals.
Aye.
Like I'm sorry, but no matter what level you're at, 2 goals in that many games. I know they're 2 important goals, but it's not good enough for a striker. Week in, week out, he's not good enough. And I think
I remember how this came up actually. Sorry to interrupt you, Ben, but it was when they unveiled the new kit, and you said, "Do you not think it's weird that the centre of everything now seems to be Moyle? Every kind of promotion and everything like that was David Moyle." And I said, "He's obviously picking up the hype because he's done well." And you went, "He hasn't done well. He scored 2 goals."
Yeah, I mean that's my point. I get what you guys are saying. I really do. He's more athletic than Augie. He needs a chance of this system with Bruce Anderson, and maybe if Augie's injuries is worse than it seems, then maybe he'll get the chance in the next few games. But I don't see why we couldn't go get a player who's just as athletic but would score more goals.
I totally agree. We could go do that, but I just think I'd rather have him as a sort of backup or a second backup striker than I like to Callum Smith. That's my personal opinion. I just think.
Oh, listen, I'm not saying Callum Smith's the answer either.
No, I know.
I'm
not saying David Moyle's the answer either, but I'm just saying I wouldn't give up on him just yet.
I think there's something in there. I think he has shown he's got the glimpses and a bit of potential. So yeah, I think the 2 guys are saying that we should give him another chance, and I fully expect it. I don't see them releasing him when he's got 2 years left on a deal either.
Okay, interesting. Alistair Lindsay has asked, in the last 4 games, Anderson, Callahan, Adolfin and Augie have received major plaudits. I am one of Scott McMahon's biggest critics, but I think over the last few games, he's been exceptional. Using Easton as a second left back has allowed him to push forward, and he looks so much more confident. What do you guys think? I totally agree. Scott McMahon, we said online, gets a fair amount of criticism and is used as a scapegoat, I feel, at times with Aki's fans. I don't think he's been as bad as people say he is. He's definitely not been the worst in the team in terms of some of the games. And I think recently he has definitely came on, and I think he's been very impressive. Very nearly scored against Hibs. He's created plenty of chances. He's got a few assists, I believe, recently as well. Scott McMahon, I think, is used as a scapegoat, and I don't think he deserves the amount of criticism that he gets. What do you guys think?
I disagree with Alistair says. I think he's been really good all season, not just the last 4 games. As you say, Ben, I'm bad for it as well, but Aki's fans always have their generic scapegoat throughout the seasons. Could go and score a double hat-trick and they'd still think he was fucking terrible. I've been like that before with certain players as well, so I'm not just singling out certain fans by saying that. But no, I just think Scott McMahon is crucial for what we do. And he has been all season. We've been a very non-attacking team, and any time we have attacked, it's kind of he's been involved. His delivery's quite hit and miss, which is unfortunate, because if it was pretty consistent, then who knows how much results we could have got better. But I just think defensively he's been sound this season. Going forward, he's been one of our most important players because a lot's went through him. I don't think the criticism of him's fair, and I wouldn't really be surprised if he did move on in the coming years to a team possibly down south, because I think he suits the whole attacking full-back player that they love down south.
Aye, no, I agree 100%. I mean, I think it's fair to say that he hasn't always been the most sound defensively. This season, he's definitely been a lot better defensively.
I think what Alistair said sort of corresponds with that, with the Brian Easton sort of point.
I think that there is a lot more to come for Scott McMahon. I remember when the Preston links were there, like Brandon said, I thought that would be a brilliant move for him. I could totally see it working as well. I think that would be a great move for him.
I think he was linked with Stoke as well.
Yeah, because they're not in the top 10 for most crosses delivered in the league.
He was in the top 10 for most crosses, most tackles, and I think he's in the top 15 for best percentage of take-ons, like defensive take-ons.
He's been one of our best players this season, in my personal opinion, and he deserves all the plaudits he's been getting recently.
Yeah, I agree. Jack Radcliffe has asked, amongst other questions, where is Nathan Thomas? He says he came on against Ross County. He's been missing since then. I agree. We're just praised the club for an injury update. It would be nice to hear about people like Nathan Thomas and Lewis Smith.
Well, we do hear about them apparently every 2 weeks. Apparently, they're close to fitness, and that's been going on for about 4 months.
Yeah.
I think there was a point in time, Ben, where you were told that Lewis Smith was back.
I was
back at the St Johnstone game that we could beat 5-3. So you mean we've sort of praised him for the recent injury update that we've got once in a blue moon, but Jack's definitely right. Where is Nathan Thomas?
I think when he did play, he did make a difference. We played him kind of off either wing, mostly down the right to cut in his left. I remember, was it against St Johnstone, he played up top with, was it Ogdenpo kind of off him, almost as that Templeton role, and that caused so many issues. Like I remember him bursting through and very, very nearly scored very early on. So he could definitely add something to the team, and he's a player that I don't want to say we've been missing because we've been playing well, but it makes our team a hell of a lot stronger, and it makes our bench a hell of a lot stronger as well, given our what depth is.
I think what you're saying there is spot on. Recently, we have been playing well, but what happens if we weren't playing well, and who have we got to turn to? Do you know what I mean? We've got nobody really. The first 11 has been totally sound, and we've been playing some great football. But then when you look at the bench, if we were to be chasing a game, there's nobody on that you're thinking, right, we need to bring this specific person on, that could possibly change it. Whoever he sort of brings on at the present moment, you're a bit like, it's not going to go well.
Yep.
So it'd be good to find out where Nathan Thomas is and when he'll be back.
Absolutely. And we'll end the podcast here. Scotty B said, discuss how in the space of 4 games and the arrival of Bruce Anderson, Rice has went from defensive to attacking football and is actually having a go at teams. Why has this not been the ethos from the start? We kind of touched on that earlier on in the podcast, but just quickly, do you think is the arrival of Bruce Anderson and having somebody he can depend on up front, or do you think it's just taken him this long to find a team and a system and a formation that works for him?
I think. Sorry, you go, David.
Sorry, mate. It's just sort of before I forget. I think I'm going to be fair and probably unfair in the same sentence here. I think the arrival of a better player, like I said at the Motherwell game, we don't have any other strikers that can take that touch and finish that ball like Bruce Anderson. So I think the arrival of players and having players in those positions and having an established 11 has definitely helped. But at the same time, Brian Rice, as far as he's been concerned, we've been in it all year and we've been doing that all year, and the players couldn't have done any more. So what we're seeing is definitely different. But if you ask the manager and you look at all these interviews for the rest of the season, nothing's changed. And if you look at what he's been saying, we've been playing as good as we can all season when we can all see clearly what we've not seen the effort for the entire team like that all season. But the gaffer has said all year that he couldn't have got any more at the players. So credit's got to be given, but at the same time, those are his words.
I think it's a bit of a mixture here. Like you says, Bruce Anderson coming in, a better sort of standard of players coming into the team. But when you looked at the Ross County game, we weren't really set up in the manner in which we have the past few games. I think the way in which we've been playing recently is because we've been beat that Ross County game, and he's thought, you know what? As well as we all did, we're fucked here.
Mm-hmm.
something needs to change. That's us really fucked at the position we're in just now. I may as well just fucking go for it. What else have I got to lose? So we've lost that game, and then we've just went, you know what, fuck it, let's just go for it. We've got nothing to lose. I've already been pumped 8-0 at the start of the seasons, 4-0, 5-0, whatever, score lines, conceding 4 goals in like 10 minutes. So we thought, you know what, I may as well just fucking go for it. I've got nothing to lose. If I continue playing the way I might sneak a wee draw here or there, but it's at that stage of the season now where if I don't pull results now, then we're definitely doomed. And I think that's what it's got to do with. It might have slight to do with Anderson coming in, but I think it's more so to do with the fact that we've just been beat off Ross County.
I think we've got the exact same points as we did at this time last year, but 1 game less played.
Ross County are actually just 3 points worse off this season than last, while Accies are the same, 3 points worse off, but having played 1 game less.
Right. Aye. So I find that harder to believe because it felt, probably this is hindsight doing me wrong here, but it felt a bit more comfortable at times last year. Whereas there's been times where we've just been absolutely dreadful this season, and there's times where we really have put our hands up and said, nah, we're fucked, no hope. Ross County game, like I say, there was no coming back for that. Next thing you know, you're taking a point off unbeaten Rangers. It's been a mad season.
It has been a mad season. And this has been a very long podcast, so thank you for sticking with us, but there was a lot to cover. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming along. I appreciate it as always. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Go ahead and follow our social medias, all of which are linked in the description. If you have any difference of opinions about anything we spoke about, let us know on those social media channels or in the comment section down below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like it. And of course, subscribe down below as well. It really does help us. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you again soon.